Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. My name is Father Chris. I'm the priest of this community, and I want to warmly welcome you to our cultural center. We're so happy that we're able to host this event for you and provide the needed space and all of the AV equipment and all that you need. This is near and dear to my heart, I'll be honest with you. I grew up not on a farm per se, but next to my grandfather, who had a garden about the size of this room. And my memories are always of getting up first thing in the morning, or maybe coming home from school, and running over to my grandfather's house, and always knowing that he was going to be in that garden, working that garden. And so I would spend the entire afternoon working the garden with him. And now that, he's passed on, I have my own garden, not quite this big, but I have my own garden. Last Friday was a very sad day for me with the end of the growing season. I went and I picked about 100 tomatoes that I still had on the vine, and I was pulling the roots out, and I felt as if I was putting my animal down or something. You know, I literally started them from seed in April, and I couldn't get them to grow inside, but the spiritual part of me says, well, give it to God then. So I had them about this big, and I couldn't grow them more than this big. As soon as I stuck it in the ground, they immediately began growing like crazy, and within 1 month they were this high. So together we did something right. That's really all I have to say. It's a real pleasure. I honor you for what you do, and I thank you for being here this morning. God bless you.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Okay, cool. I am the sole Springfield, Massachusetts resident for PVGrows Steering Committee. You can give me applause for that. Thank you. So, in addition to the Father, I also want to welcome you to Springfield. And before we get started, this is not a super formal event, so I want to make sure everyone is familiar with people around the table. So just shake hands to the person left to you, to the person to the right of you. Make sure everybody is well acquainted. Very good. Let's not make it a very long introduction. Okay, cool. Excellent. I'm not particularly sure where the bathrooms are, but I think if you ask anyone here with a F, if I'm not mistaken, a facilitator, you should ask them. They'll be able to point that out to you. Let's have a great event. Thank you very much. And my name is OBrien. I'm with the steering committee, gardening in the community, as well as the Mason Square Farmers Market. So good luck. Have a good day.
Hi, I'm Sam Stegman. I'm the coordinator of PVGrows. I'm thrilled to be here. Hi, Kelly. Today's World Food Day, which is an international day of combating hunger. Next Wednesday is in United States, U.S. Food Day, a new day of celebration, trying to change the diet of this country. And so I just really feel excited about what we're doing here today in the national and international context, and in the Pioneer Valley context. We've come a ways with PVGrows. This is by far our largest event yet. The last time we were kind of blown away by the amount of interest was when we held it in Holyoke and had a focus on food access. So my theory is that there's a lot of interest in the intersection between food access and sustainable food systems. Does that seem reasonable as a theory? So raise your hand if you have not been to a PVGrows forum before. Okay, so that's great. Then I'll go through the basics. If you've heard me do this spiel, you're going to get to hear it again. But that's good because I think it's a great spiel. Well, because PVGrows is a network. It's a collaborative network This is the long version, dedicated to enhancing the ecological and economic sustainability and vitality of the Pioneer Valley food system. This is the short version. This is what I tell people. PVGrows is a network of people working for a healthy Pioneer Valley food system. So I highlighted those two words, network and healthy Pioneer Valley food system. First, I'll say, what do we mean by food system? This is really a valuable, to me, concise series of indicators describing what a healthy food system would need to include. This is from the Center for Whole Communities. Vibrant farms, actually they've changed it now to vibrant farms and gardens. Justice and fairness. Healthy people. Sustainable ecosystems. Thriving local economies. And strong communities. So of course we're all doing many of these things. I know I find myself more in one often than in another. And the concept of PVGrows is twice a year, get together with people who are doing the other stuff. Break out of the head down kind of mentality. Get inspired by what's happening in the valley because it's unbelievable. The lists of prospects for people who could present at these forums is always like 40 or 50 long before we winnow it down. So I am thrilled. I'm thrilled every single time we go through this process. And today, we're talking about, again, this healthy Pioneer Valley food system. It won't come about unless we are a thriving network. And so the network, there's one word that I think of that's essential to a thriving network. Anybody want to guess? Anybody have their own one word? What's the most important thing for a good network? Communication. Connection. Food. People. Diversity. Mine is trust. And that's based around looking at network systems analysis, which more and more food systems are looking at, and saying it's worth dedicating time to building trust. And that comes from breaking down the isolation that just comes from not knowing each other or not coming down to Springfield if you live in Conway, where I live, or not coming up to Conway if you live in Holyoke or Springfield or Southwick. Unnecessary competition is something we talk about sometimes. We all see it. We all do it. So we're here in a spirit of being invested in each other's success. And I think we're having some success with that. We did a survey this summer where a large number of PVGrows members said that they are expanding their networks through these events, and that they feel that they can express their perspective in the PVGrows context. So I hope you will do that today. Express your own perspective and hear others. And so what we do briefly is we are a network. We're not a project or a program, so we just do this twice a year as far as a program. There's a learning component where at these forums we shift around to different topics. The last two were focused on entrepreneurship, both farm and food business entrepreneurship. And they were very thrilling, looking at the vibrancy and the dedication of the people who are running these businesses and enterprises that make our food system go. Today, as you'll hear more about, we're talking about food security. We're talking about it from two different ways: the food security of a household and the food security of a region. And we're really lucky to have wonderful timing to have the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission release just on Friday. If you got the email, and there was a lot of emails and a lot of information that came out, but one key thing is that on Friday morning, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission released a draft of their new food security plan for Pioneer Valley. And it's in its public comment stage. It is not a finished document. It is available to get more comment. I mean, they've done a wonderful job already getting a lot of input, but now is a chance today. It's not a focus of the day, but at the end, you'll hear about it and you'll have access to the authors of the plan. So that's the learning. And then the last is action. We provide a working group structure that's how collaboration can happen. So if you want to start a working group or participate in a working group, you'll see we do that right before lunch, and then we break out into groups. Who's here? This is a lot of people do multiple things, but this is kind of a rough sense. Raise your hand if you're an entrepreneur, farmer or food entrepreneur. Right, so what does that look like, 20%? Higher education? Okay, and now just the students within higher education, keep your hands up. Some students, thank you for being here on a weekday. Finance, which is investors, lenders, grant makers. And then nonprofit and government, raise your hands. I lumped you together. And then some people, I didn't know how to categorize. Raise your hand if you feel you're not in one of those groups. So that's who's here. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go about half an hour on understanding food security before we get to our 4 presenters who are going to be up here. And then we're going to have time for question and answer and discussion with them as a big group. And then we're going to break into small groups at the tables. We're going to be in this room all day, so get comfortable. And then next steps is where we do the working group stuff. We hear about more resources that are available beyond the 4 presenters, beyond what you may have experienced in your small groups. And then at lunch, we break into a different breakout, which is working groups, which are ongoing groups. So there's a lot of chances to meet a lot of people. So please do. And just butt in and, introduce yourself to the people that you need to know. Use this, I recommend you use this list of who's here. That's the wealth of this event is this list of people. We try to make these things very interactive. The last one was extremely interactive, and I think it was a little too complicated. So we're just kind of toning it down and having a little bit of your more conventional presenters with Q&A, and we'll see how that goes. But remember, even at that, it's about all of us. So grab your questions, grab the presenter afterwards, facilitate your group. If you have a facilitator at your table that's floundering, don't laugh at them, help them out, right? It's just the concept is we are working together to make this as great as we can make it. So they won't flounder. And we'll be out of here by 1. You can linger a little longer than that if you need to. At 1:30 in here is when the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission will have this public comment session where you can ask questions and give feedback on the plan. That's not your only chance. There will be other chances. You can always reach out to them. And at the same time, a great opportunity to go on a tour of gardening the community. Ibrahim just spoke about his role on PVGrows steering committee and being on the staff there, meeting some of the youth, seeing some of the garden sites. Meeting the youth, is that accurate? They'll be in school. They'll be in school. All right. The older youth. So that is at 1:30. That's it. I'll leave it at that. Any questions before we move on? That's great. Thank you.